My name is Mike Young. I'm from Troy, Idaho. I come over in 1969 from Montana. I've heard a lot of this discussion on safety in our school systems. But I've got one question. What about firearms training? Are any of you familiar with a bill that was signed in by the governor on March 26th? It's firearms safety education in the primary and secondary schools. Have any of you read that yet? Anybody been familiar with that bill? Administrators, MPD is. Charlie, are you? Okay, that bill was signed in on March 26th. And it's firearms safety education in the primary and secondary schools. The Board of Trustees of the school district is encouraged to establish and maintain a firearms safety education course for primary and secondary school students. My question is, I've already talked to the superintendent in Troy about the program. This morning there was 2 letters in the Daily News, one concerning I have checked in Moscow and there's no firearms safety courses in the school system. I know there's hunter education. I taught it for 30 years. That's different. We do teach firearms safety, but we also teach hunting. My question to the administrators, the MPD, is there any conversation going on to follow up on the recommendations of our legislature?
I would say on that type of issue, I would take the input from the community on that, because every community is different. I mean, I will tell you, in my past district where I was at, you know, with hunting was very strong safety. I mean, they had hunter safety, they fire safety in the school buildings was a concern. That's a different population than the population in Moscow.
That's right.
So it's one that if it's a very large group of, you know, of our parents, patrons that want that, then I would look at that. But it's gotta be, that's one that's gotta be done. But if it's hunters, if it's fire safety, it's just how to utilize that in, you know, that tool in a proper way. Is it to have guns in schools or something? I will tell you, I am not there.
It's stop, don't touch, leave the area, tell an adult.
Yeah.
It's pretty simple.
Yeah.
You know, you
Yeah.
said 3 suicides since you've
Yeah.
been an administrator. And I had suicides in the 30 years I taught undergrad, and I felt, you know, did I encourage that? But one thing that's profound, and I've taught in the Moscow School District firearms safety through kindergarten up through 3rd grade, and it's completely different in Moscow than it is in Darien, Beauville, and Troy. And I realize that. But I would like that you as administrator and your trustees, that you review this new stature and consider it. And again, go to your trustees and go to your patrons, and I can see merit in it. And that's, when the legislature, when it was mentioned there should be some legislation concerning, you know, safety in our schools, this is some of the legislation.
Yeah.
And it's pretty profound. It can go a couple different ways. Thank you.
Okay. Yes.
I have a quick question on a different topic. My name is Patty. I have a daughter in Moscow High School. Can you talk a little bit about intervention for at-risk students in the district? And, you know, what are your challenges in terms of funding resources for that?
Well, for at-risk, for everything, I mean, we do have some programs in place for kids, you know, at risk for, you know, either mental issues or at risk for academic issues or safety issues at home and so forth like that. You know, it starts mainly with our counselors, with our teachers, you know, and then there's a lot of funding, different programs behind to help identify some of, you know, some programs for that. We also work very closely with a lot of outside agencies around the area that can help us with some of the kids with more greater concerns. mental health, I mean, it's becoming more and more of an issue within our school settings, and we're doing the best we can. You know, and a lot of that is a lack of funding from the state in regards to that. You know, we've had students that have been determined that they need to actually even go into like an institution to get the needed help, and they ran out of money to go back on our doorstep. And we're open, we have them coming back to us. So it's a tough issue that we're dealing with.
I want to add to that a little bit, just so you're aware. It was, you know, all this kind of plays out, it seems like everything lines up, fortunately, one way or the other. But right after the Florida shooting, I went over and Greg and I sat down and talked about also developing a threat assessment team with our SROs and the administration. We do this at the university all the time. It just gives us the opportunity to start seeing some things and maybe start putting some key things in place, making contacts and trying to do some prevention. So those discussions were already underway right after the Florida, and we're trying to figure out how we want to formulate that and move that forward, but that's also coming back.
That gentleman had the question, and then
Yeah, regarding the timeline of the incidents of the initial threat, that your officer was contacted at 3 a.m. and by 8 o'clock the next day, you had officers knocking on the door. That was outstanding police work, really impressive. Another question that was missing in the information I was looking for is how did the officers determine that this individual had no weapons? Was there a warrant, or was it a voluntary inspection? How did
It was
they
a voluntary inspection, plus we talked to family members, we talked to more that we just didn't talk to him to gather that information. We also advised family at that time, you know, if there is weapons, lock them up and you know, take care of that. We got great cooperation from family. Now, I know that there's, can I guarantee you anything? I can't. But we did the best we could to gather the most information that we could to assure ourselves that there wasn't a furtherance of anything going to happen.
And just to follow up, what is the degree of threat that this individual poses now, especially with this April 18th date?
You know, there's no one, you're asking, I wish I had a crystal ball. Do I believe it's a continued threat? No. Are we vigilant? Yes. On the 18th, I can tell you, we will be in contact with that individual. We will know where he's at that point in time. Now, hopefully he meets with us. We're planning on having an officer with him just to assure the community that we have an officer physically with him that morning and through the time, and then we'll continue to monitor. Do I have somebody that I can assign to him? It's not, you know.
You can get some volunteers.
yeah.
And I appreciate volunteerism in our community, and I understand. But we are trying to do everything. We're putting some key things in place, trying to ensure some, you know, some relief of your emotions and your stress. We get it. You know, officers in our department have kids in these schools. You know, we're not exempt to that that feeling. So we get it. We understand, and I understand everybody's passion and everybody's anxiety.
Yeah.
But know that we truly do care. We truly are trying to do everything we can. And you know, you say, you know, congratulations. We don't want. I told our department numerous times, I don't want to be the chief standing in front of the community saying, why didn't we do this?
Yeah.
So we're pretty proactive in taking things forward.